Hey guys, I just watched The Batman twice. I had to say it's a really good movie. It was directed by Matt Reeves. He directed the Planet of Apes reboots, and I heard they were really good movies. But this one had pretty interesting history. It was originally going to be a Ben Affleck directed solo Batman pick. It became the Batman. It stars Robert Pattinson. We know from Twilight, but that's in the past. I mean, he's a spectacular actor. If you've seen The Lighthouse, you should know why. The movie's about 3 hours long, and it's unlike the prior Batman movies. It's more of a mystery thriller in the vein of Seven, and there's a little bit of a neo noir with some Chinatown influence, yeah, as well as some stuff from different interpretations in the comic book canon. Gotham City is depicted. It's is a pretty grimy shithole, and I like that. It doesn't look like any other city, like what the Dark Knight basically showed it as. Think of the Narrows and Batman Begins, but imagine the whole city being like that. It's just this deplorable, not so welcoming metropolis. That does have a good sense of geography. I have to say the production designers knocked it out of the park. The story, I'd rather not spoil it, but basically, Batman is investigating with the detective Jim Gordon, who's played by Jeffrey Wright. You may know him in the 007 movies or Westwood. And they're gonna pursue the Riddler, who has been killing the Gotham City elite. The corruption runs rampant through the city, the police force, and even Bruce Wayne's parents. I know people don't like Robert Pattinson's depiction of Bruce Wayne, but I think it works in this movie because this is all he has. As Alfred said in the trailers, it's all you have left. And what helps me back up that opinion is the character actually has an arc. He basically actually does hero stuff towards the end, which is pretty nice, because usually in these Batman movies, it's just usually him just beating up on criminals, or just he's basically like the monkey wrench when something crazy happens. Fortunately, he's more than that. I mean, he's a detective. He's a hero. He is also vengeance, but that kind of falls on the wayside at the end, which I think is for the better, because we already seen disaffected Batman in like Batman vs Superman, and I think at the time now of how bad things are in the world, it's kind of good to seeing such a grim setting that man could give people hope. One scene at the end, it was it kind of touching, was then when one of the people are getting grabbed on a stretcher, just want to let go. It kind of goes with saying that I actually prefer these movies over Marvel, even if they're a mixed bag, and this is what proves it. I mean, it's a very scattershot method, but there's just a lot of variety in terms of tonal shifts in each movie. The cinematography is fucking amazing. It is a well shot movie. A lot of visual symbolism, and instead of him doing grandiose speeches like Nolan's Dark Knight, not that I hate the Dark Knight trilogy, I love it. I think it's some of the best comic book movies ever. It just shows that he's more of a man of action rather than words. I think that's why they had him had Robert Pattinson be young Bruce Wayne. You could see it through his just by his eyes what he's feeling, rather than him having to explain anything. Another thing I like to dispute with other critics is that there's a lot of humor. It's just not the focus tested humor you see in a lot of movies. Some cheap joke that was thought of because it's the hot thing. It comes up organically, and it is dark humor. I think that's probably why that people thought this was an unfunny movie, but it does have its moments here and there. There's also a lot of practical effects with some CG. CG is fine. It doesn't get me out of the way with the stunt they did. I do like how Batman's tech is a bit primitive compared to the Nolan trilogy, because everything feels like it's handcrafted and handmade. Most of the gadgets, especially the Batmobile, which is just basically this hot rod with the frickin' jet engine strapped on the back of it, with a really awesome chase. First time you actually see traffic in the streets in one of these chase scenes, because it's usually you just see the vehicles that are pertinent to what's happening in the story, and it's kind of gives it a more real touch. The performances are great. Paul Dano is pretty spot on as a pretty creepy version of the Riddler. More Zodiac Killer and less Jim Carrey. And overall, I like the movie, except for one thing. This just felt like it was studio mandated. There's this one bit in the ending which shows a particular fan favorite villain, and I kind of wish you could have easily cut that off, and it would have been better with the ending they had, and that's what only thing I felt that was unnecessary. Overall, the Batman is more of a movie of action rather than grandiose speeches, and more symbolism with the lighting, the visual cues. It's basically a story about being a symbol of vengeance and fear, and evolving into someone who needs to basically give hope to the Gotham City, and where he becomes an actual hero, because these are definitely superhero films. It doesn't matter what the tone is, but and who's directing it, and I'm looking forward to the sequel, and I'm just curious what they're going to do next with this. Thank you for listening, and you have a great
You're part of this too. How am I part of it? You'll see.